everyone, and welcome. It is that time of the week again, our Philosophy Friday and our weekly Stoic lesson from our book, A Handbook for New Stoics. So this week, guys and gals, we are on week 17, which talks about meditating on others' virtues. And basically the whole premise of this is the idea of a lot of times we admire the behaviors of others. And we say, oh, that person, she's so nice, he's so giving, they're so patient. I wish I could be more like them. And this whole concept here really talks about starting to observe some of the virtues that other people that you interact with have, be it in person, on the television, what have you, in books, but being able to start to identify those virtues to then eventually begin to integrate some of those into your own life, to mirror them in many ways, to try to emulate the ways that they behave, to help again elevate your virtues, and to be able to maybe just adopt a little bit of how they behave to help improve your life and the life of others. What they talk about here, they start, as always with each week, they start with a quote from Marcus Aurelius from Meditations, his book to end all books. And it says, when you want to cheer your spirits, consider the excellence of those about you. Nothing is more cheering than exemplification of virtues in the characters of those about us. We should keep them always ready to hand. So I really like that. And it's really just thinking about, up until now, we've focused a lot on what you shouldn't desire, the things that you should, have aversion to, indifferences, being able to spot the difference between that which we want and that which we don't. And so this is really talking about, as part of Stoicism, they encourage us to seek those that are virtuous, have those people in your network, in your tribe, if you will, because they will challenge you and be an inspiration to you to be a better person, both to yourself and to others. They say that Aristotle called friendship a virtue, and he considers that the highest kind of friendship. And they actually thought that friendship was the only one deserving of that name. So avoiding desire of the things that don't serve you and desiring the things that you do, and to use the virtues of others to help train each other, train ourselves, and train others to be more just, kind, temperate, and courageous, and having those people in our lives serve as our yardstick. And basically what they had us do as part of this exercise this week was just pick a time of day each day, and then for each day of the week, pick someone in our lives with whom we have a little bit of admiration for, and rate our moods both before and after the exercise, and start to identify if we, just through the observation and the capture of the virtues of others, whether or not it improves our state of mind, our physical state of mind, or mental state of physical state of mind, our physical state or a state of mind.
Yeah,
and
physical state.
That's a real thing. There is. You're right.
The scientific process of how your brain works.
You're right.
So you firing dopamine, or you firing, cortisol, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Fair point.
Mm-hmm.
Fair point.
It's real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So really just going through and just rating your level of, they say, cheerfulness at the start or the end of the exercise, and identifying what character trait or traits of the person do you admire, what do you find admirable about them, and focus on the traits that are about the person, not something superficial or material about them, their character, who they are, how they behave, not what they have or what they do. And they even say the person doesn't have to be a saint. Just focus on one thing. Everybody has flaws in some way, but just focus on the things that you admire, and don't focus on the things that maybe are opportunities for improvement in the other person's life. So guys, thoughts on this exercise?
Rob?
The thing that stood out to me with this, because you brought up some very good things. So My main takeaway from this is proof that Stoics are not emotionless. It's really a focus on the empowering emotions that Stoics are striving for. And if you want to get into elevation and vibrations, and there's a certain energy to complaining and negative words and surrounding yourself with that. And if you live in that, you're going to be most likely less happy, more sad, more depressed. But if you focus on virtues and you look for virtues, elevating each other, using more positive words, that's what the Stoics are ultimately going for. You will live a more fulfilling, more happy life because you're striving towards something. You're moving towards something, as our buddy Tony Robbins would say. Not that he's our buddy, but I'm saying someday. But moving away from, like he talks about moving towards values and moving away from values. So if you live your life moving away from things, you live a different life than moving towards things. What this lesson is moving towards virtue, which I love.
Yeah.
It's also law of attraction, right? So what you choose to think about are seeds that you sow in your garden. And if you focus on the positive trait of a person, again, nobody is a saint. If you focus on the positive trait of a person, not only does that help you emulate that person's positive trait, but it helps you grow more positivity. On the flip side, if you focus on somebody's negative traits, not only does your opinion of that person diminish, but by law of attraction, you're thinking of negative thoughts, you're bringing on more negative thoughts and more negative possible outcomes as well.
Yeah, that's the physicality of the brain right there.
Good call. Good call.
Physicality.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I circled is they're talking about how friendships where you recognize somebody's virtues, they pull each other up, encouraging one another to become better and better. And, when you hear things like select your tribe carefully or surround yourself with people that make you feel good, this is definitely what the Stoics are after. It's not only surrounding yourself with people who virtues you admire, but bringing that to the forefront and talking about it and being mindful of what it is, as opposed to just, yeah, I really like her, she's really funny, or yeah, she's really cute girl. Well, being cute has nothing to do with anything she has control over. Mm-hmm. So it's when you're focusing on what is it that is virtuous about that person, it helps bring that into focus for you and for others.
Yeah, absolutely. They always say, what is it? Love your family, limit your tribe. It's basically just being very conscious of who you're choosing to surround yourself with and the language that they're using. That doesn't mean that there are some people that they talk about, you have toxic people or energy vampires in your life. And there are some people that subscribe to, keep them out of your life entirely. I would say more just be very clear-eyed about who they are and what they are, and be mindful of that when you are interacting with them. So that way they don't suck your energy or bring you down so much that you get into a different state of mind that is not serving you or is not helping you strive toward this higher level of a virtuous lifestyle.
And I would just add to that, yes. And I think if there is a blessing in the time of COVID when we're recording this, so if you're watching this in 2021 or 2022,
congratulations,
you made it. Well, we don't know. I mean, we don't know how long this is going to last for. But in this time, if you're looking for the blessing, one of the big blessings for me has been more self-time, because I've said no to a lot of things because there's certain things I just didn't want to go out and do, and want to limit your time in public and these types of things. But it forces you to, well, it doesn't force you. You have the opportunity to say, okay, let me go through my tribe and let me look at the virtues that my tribe has as individuals. And then you can do obviously various other things, self-contemplation, which is what one of the major tenets of Stoicism is really think about your values and what you want them to be. Where this lesson ties in is, oh, okay, who has those lessons? What about hanging out with Amy or hanging out with Sierra elevates me? And I've had time to kind of sit down and do that more so because I pre-COVID, go, 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 go. This appointment to this appointment to this appointment. So this was a perfect time to really start these Stoicism lessons during this challenging time, because everyone's been affected by this in one way, shape, or other. And if you take the time to say self-care, because as we heard a quote this past weekend on a conference, the physician heals himself first or herself first. In order to serve others, you have to be okay with yourself first.
Yeah. And I would say, I'm just going to add one more thing when it comes to your tribe. You know, we even if you're someone who doesn't have a large network of people in your tribe, be it by circumstance or selection, you also think about the behaviors that you're observing of the things that you consume, whether that's relationships with people, whether that's books that you read, news that you read, people that you interact with on social media, shows that you watch or movies that you watch. It's being mindful of that, because all of that, as they even talk about here, it's really the witnessing of other people doing good things, doing virtuous things that can help cheer you or lift you up. God bless you. And it doesn't have to be person to person live interaction. It's what you're consuming and observing that. So even with this exercise, it doesn't always have to be people that you know. You know, you even joked, you know, we know Tony Robbins, our buddy Tony Robbins. We know him insofar as we consume the information and that he has been sharing. And so he can become a model of sorts that we can try to emulate and identify the things that are virtuous about him, while at the same time recognizing that he is not a perfect person and he has flaws as well. So.
Well, I would throw in too, you know, in the old days of the yoga tradition, is a student would find their guru, and they would study with their guru, and they had one guru, and there would be a lineage that would come down. This guru taught, right? But the student would practice with one teacher. Our model today is very different. Our model is anyone can be a guru, because you have the freedom to choose the trait that you want to focus on. So you were talking about, you know, energy vampires. Anybody could be perceived as an energy vampire if you give them that power and if you feed into their negative traits that do so. But anyone also has the opportunity to be part guru for you, in that anyone has the opportunity to teach you something if you look for that positive trait or that positive virtue that you can learn from. The power can go any way. It's the perception of it. So as opposed to thinking of trying to find a perfect guru, and yes, Tony Robbins has so many great messages, but he's not the only guru that the two of you consume. You consume a lot of different gurus' information. And that way you have a smorgasbord of things to learn from, as I would encourage everybody to look for those guru opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea too. And it may be something that is a bit more intentional, and maybe we'll get into this over time, but it's almost creating a guru board, if you will, or some reference point. And again, it doesn't have to be a celebrity or someone up here. It could be the person right next to you. And you can use that as a reference to say, in this type of situation, what would Sierra do? What would Rob do? And that can be a great reference point to help you kind of just recalibrate a little bit of the ways that maybe you're reacting to certain types of situations or environments, and using them as your guide, your guru in that sense for that particular behavior, scenario, area of your life, whatever it might be.
Well, that's the advancements in technology too, is that you have that opportunity. So back in, I don't know, 1200, you didn't talk to as many people as we talk to today. There were no phones, there were no video chats, there were no television shows. So the concept of the guru was the person you spent a ton of time with because you physically had to in order to learn those lessons. Now you don't have to. So you can consume, to Sierra's point, to your point, 1,000 gurus if you want.
Yep. Yeah. All right, so let's shift a little bit and let's talk about maybe one or two of the people that you identified and what were the virtuous traits that you observed about them.
0. You guys wrote 0 for me, I'm sure.
Oh.
No.
So who's going first? Ladies first.
All right, Sierra, you're up.
Okay. So I chose to focus on my fellow painted porch gurus. And I kind of wrote down a stream of consciousness about both of you. So I'm going to start with, since you said ladies first, so I'll start with the other lady. I'll start with Amy. So I wrote down a lot of different things, and I'm just going to kind of share all of them. So
You're gonna make me cry.
I probably will, but I have a special knack for that. So, so I wrote for Amy. I admire your organization and your rational thought. I admire the way that you use knowledge and comprehension of different types of ideals. I'm constantly amazed at your natural ability for numbers and analyzation. And I'm always surprised at your tenacity and your loyalty. I also wrote down honesty. It is one of your strongest points, and you have to learn how to embrace this honesty. And also your thoughtfulness. So I know this is kind of all over the board, but all of this is a lot of the traits that I'm gonna make myself cry now. Is that there's so many things that you excel at, and there's so many things that you're good at, and yet you do it in such a humble way, and you're so thoughtful when it comes to how you approach other people, that there's never this like, oh, I understand a million different things. It's always a very accessible and a very thoughtful way that you present this incredible breadth of knowledge that you have. So that is what I honor and recognize in you.
Well, thank you. It's I think about this even with this exercise, and something that we talked about several weeks ago is that it's a good practice to do for ourselves, right? To kind of identify and reflect what we admire in others, but it's also just as important to share it, to share that, because sometimes we all need reminders of that. So thank you for that reminder, since we tend to be our worst critics. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, and this obviously, Amy's been my best friend for a long time. So it's very purposeful. She and I often have a very different perspective of looking at things. And this has been invaluable to me. And I see Rob is shaking his head, is that often when I am stuck in my head, I will call her, and she is often like that counterpoint that gives me a totally different perspective to things, that often gives me that clarity that I can't, no man is an island, that I can't come to by myself. So when I say honesty, I think that's probably the biggest Stoic takeaway here is she has such a way of being very honest. Again, it's knowing that, and I know Rob and I have discussed this both in front of Amy and not in front of Amy, is that she is very honest. And so if you ask her a question, you need to be prepared for that honesty, but also it's never, the intention is always to be helpful. And I think this is where, sometimes people are bluntly honest and they kind of say it as a way to be mean. There's always a good intention. You always have that intention of helping people. Sometimes we're not ready to hear it, but your intention is always there of that pure intention to be helpful.
Well, thank you.
I would definitely agree with
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what I wrote about you, your honesty.
So if any of you guys end up working with me, be prepared.
Yes. If you ask the question, don't ask the question unless you want the answer.
And know it comes from a place of love.
Well, but let me add this too. And I think that with this honesty, Amy has this uncanny ability to see the goal faster than just about everybody. So Amy like looks at a situation and says, okay, that's where we need to go. And her questions and her answers come from, okay, if it's the step, like you're trying to get to the top of the stairs, Amy says, okay, well, we're going to take one step at a time, and we're going to get to this step, and then this step, and then here's how we get to this step, and here's how we get to this step. That's where that comes from as well. It's, okay, what do you want? What's the outcome that you want? So for a company, for example, she can look at the way that the company's structured and go, okay, this is where the company will best work. Or, Sierra, this is the outcome that you want, so let's get there. Rob, this is the outcome you want. So you have this ability to see this vision that I've never seen anybody be able to do. But it's because of that, again, it goes back to what Sierra said, that compassion and that honesty combined, that really wanting to serve others in the best way possible that allows you to do that.
Right. As I always used to tell clients, and I'm saying this here today, you know, I be prepared for me to poke the bear a lot, because if you're saying you want to change, I'm going to push you towards that. So even the steps, if you want to get to the top of the stairs, don't say you want to get there if you're not willing to take a step, because I'm going to push you to get that step. I'm going to keep poking. Because if you really want to get to the top of the stairs, you're going to have to take those steps.
You're not supposed to talk about your own virtues. We're doing that for you.
It's more of a warning. It's more of a warning than a compliment at this point, but tuck in. Tuck it.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
That's right.
No more about me. Let's
Okay.
move on to Rob.
So I'll kick off Rob as well, and then we can Amy, you can chime in on Rob. So for Rob, I wrote about your cheerfulness and energy, and I think energy is one of the best ways to describe you. Sometimes sometimes when I see your energy, it's almost like you're this little bouncing ball. It's like, boom, 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 boom. But there's always this like almost childlike excitement to it that I really admire, because you have that joie de vivre, that energy to everything that you do. Rob doesn't do anything half-ass. He doesn't do anything like quiet. He doesn't do anything like mildly, right? There's I think it's Michael Jordan said, I only know how to play two ways, reckless and abandoned, right? It's going. I wrote that Rob has an ability to communicate and tie your thoughts together in a way that speaks to your audience. You have a way of knowing who you're talking to and crafting that message so carefully that you not only meet them where they're at, but help them move forward and maybe look at something in a different light. And that is not an easy thing to do, because so many times people have a set way of thinking about something, and you challenge that in a way that doesn't feel pushy. It just feels energetic. I wrote entertaining and engaging, because let's face it, anybody who's met you knows how entertaining you are. And one of your number one fans is my son, Colt, who just thinks you are the most fun person ever and wants to play with all of your Star Wars stuff and wants to like have you tickle him and pick him up. And it's that engagement. And again, it's knowing that it really comes down to, the audience, is that you know how to communicate with him and have that energy translate into something that he can understand. You do that with Amy, you do that with me, you do that with your friends, you do that with people that you communicate with on the radio. It's that engagement. And then I on a completely other side of the dice, I wrote your compassion. So it takes a compassion to understand the audience, even if you don't agree with your audience, it's that compassion of meeting them where they're at and communicating in a way that will reach them at their heart. And that's what I admire about you, Rob.
I completely second that. I actually wrote for you, I wrote similar things. I wrote your compassion and your kindness. And I wrote carefree, but carefree is probably not the right word. It's just your ability to kind of roll with it, not let anything stay on your shoulders for too long. That's kind of what I meant by it. It's kind of like seeing it for what it is. And then I think, to your point, Sierra, I don't know exactly what you said, but it's it's basically just being able to see it, but not put too much meaning on the item, or let that meaning deter you or distract you from the mission or what you're trying to accomplish. And I also said, you create a comfort and a presence with people. I mean, Rob is like best friends with everybody.
Yes.
He's like Snow White with the animals, they all just converge to him. Exactly. And you create that singular presence, and with anyone that you're speaking with, you bring your whole self and your whole heart and your compassion to them, so that you make everyone that you're interacting with feel like they matter and that they're special. So
They do. I just generally care about people. I do. And I just love people. And I know that most people, the vast majority of people, have way more good in them than anything else, way more virtues in them. Sometimes they're hidden. Sometimes you got to work to find it, but it's always in there.
Well, you're very much, you recognize, I think, that logical, rational component that I think Sierra touched on as well, where we always say life is lived in the gray, and there's very few, if any, things that you view in a black and white way. And so I think that's really, because of that, it allows you to have friends who are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, be it politically, socially, racially. You bring everybody in, because you're not putting them in a box.
So can you teach us how to do that? How do you do all that?
Yeah.
Is that in your course?
Yeah, I can. I can definitely do it.
That'll be a separate course.
Yeah.
Life in the Gray, 50 Shades of Grey by Rob Hunter.
Well, that's a whole other course, Amy.
Hey,
Wow.
you know what? It might sell like hotcakes. That's all I'm saying. People will think it's one thing, and then they'll be like, wait a minute, what? Feelings, emotion? I thought these were not the toys I was expecting to be reading about.
Yeah.
The toys and tools. Anyways. All right. Sierra, you want to go?
Yes, I will go first.
Right.
So I'm going to start by saying the first yoga class I ever took was a class taught by Sierra. And I bring that up because Sierra has this insane amount of kindness, this insane level of trustworthiness, where you know that you can trust her, like, right off the bat, that she's never going to steer you the wrong way. That all in all, I just think Sierra's one of my favorite people in the entire world, just because of how kind and how amazing she just is. And it's only enhanced now that she's a mom. It's like it comes out in so many different ways. So the yoga part is, I was never a yogi, never wanted to be yogi. I'm like, yogi's for weirdos, right? But Sierra was never a weirdo, right? Like Sierra wasn't.
Well, she was, but in her own loving way.
But yeah, but not in a, but enough of to be like, why don't you try it? And you're like, okay, I'll try it. But that journey, that step was a huge first step for me to go and open my mind up to so many different things. And if I go back and I look at the seed that was planted, it was actually planted by Sierra to create this sort of, I don't know, Rob Hunter brain tree that I now goes in different directions. But that came from just me trusting Sierra, which was automatic. So we met Sierra through another friend who she used to date, and we talked to Sierra more than that friend. So it was just like that relationship was meant to be and meant to bring Sierra into our lives. And so that she could plant a seed in my head that there's more to life than being in your own head all the time, being depressed all the time, and trying new things. So that is ultimately what I wrote and how I feel about Sierra. She's just amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad that I could help plant a seed that took you on another level. That's a huge compliment. And you know, a lot of times you never know what impact you have on a person. So thank you for giving me that gift.
Thank you for giving me that gift.
Gosh, you guys are so eloquent. I'm gonna like screw this up. But okay. So
No, you won't.
well, this kind of ties into it, that with Sierra, we've joked, as you said, Sierra, that we have been best friends for several years now, and we always used to joke that we are like the yin and the yang, or the head and the heart. And through meeting you and through just having you in my life, it has created a more balanced me. You've served as a role model, a guru in so many ways, because you've helped me be able to just see things from a different perspective, to start more with heart than with head when it comes to the way I view a situation or an individual, because that's the way that you always approach it. You always approach it from a place of inclusiveness. That was one of the big words I wrote here. It's inclusiveness. Everyone that you interact with is felt that they are loved and they're appreciated and respected, even if they might rub you the wrong way, or even if you're like, okay, challenge accepted, right? But still, that's the environment that you create, and it's through that and your unending patience and kindness as all of us go on this journey of life and trying to figure out the ways in which to navigate it. I think many of you who have watched or participated in these videos or others, I think that you sense that from Sierra, and from just the ways you get us to think about things a little bit differently, create that different perspective, and also, you know, remind all of us that we're all students of life and we're all learning as we go. And to start with compassion for where people are on their journey, versus trying to expect them or force them to be at a certain place where you want them to be, but just helping support them along the way and hold their hand and guide them. So I would say that is Sierra. She is an amazing, loving, patient, kind individual who will just simply help anyone that she comes in contact with become a better person after they've met you.
Thank you.
How sneaky smart Sierra is.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Because you have nuggets of wisdom that just when you think you know everything Sierra's going to say, you're like, she hits you with it every time. It's like, where did you pull that from?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I even love, you do this so much that I admire this as well. This is more of a skill than a virtue, I think, in some ways, but I just love how you always find the perfect anecdote or quote to go with a situation. Like even today, again, you are such a loving, kind, patient, sweet, you know, centered individual, but at the same time, you know, you quote Howard Stern, or you would think, does she know about sports? Maybe a little bit, but you quote Michael Jordan, and it's like, okay, you just have all of these little nuggets that you pull out to help anyone, regardless of, you know, who they are, where they're at, be able to relate, because you have such a breadth and depth of insights to offer and different ways to present the idea, versus so many of us tend to think of, you know, a very linear way of getting from point A to point B. So,
Well, I don't know if it's always the perfect quote, but I often have very random, and in fact, my maiden name Ram, which I share with my dad. My dad was called Random Ram, and I am Random Ram the second. That continues. They're seemingly random thoughts, but they are connected. Maybe not in the way that you first, you know, think about it, but there's you know, I think that we're so often, we were talking earlier about you know, the expansion of how many different influences we have, you know, whether it be with a guru, learning with a guru, or influence on sports, is that now we are so lucky because all these things are at our fingertips and all these things are so readily accessible. So it's no longer, you know, that the teacher that you met or the book that you own, you can learn about everything. And when you can learn about everything, you can pull the traits that are usable at that time and that you admire. And that's what I really saw this exercise in trying to get us to identify is in every person, there is a trait that is admirable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can look for that and find that virtue in every person, whether they are a great person or not, it doesn't matter. It's finding what is good about that. And then they asked us about the cheerfulness, right? So in doing so, and I personally think that just in looking for the good trait in someone, that raises your cheerfulness or raises your vibe, so to speak, because you're no longer focusing on judging a person or putting them into a box. You're pulling out and you're like, you know what's really great about Amy is this, or you know what's really great about Rob is this. And just by pulling on those threads, it elevates your energy. It elevates that thought. It gets you into that positive place, in that virtuous place.
Brain working to your advantage.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so reflection. Did we find that this was helpful?
I believe that's obvious. I believe it's obvious that we actually really like each other. You know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But also others, you know, to that point, just to put a little bow on it, Sierra, to your point, you know, there, as they even say in here, and the truth in life, we're going to bump into difficult people. It's inevitable in your life, in your work, in a parking lot, wherever. You're going to bump into difficult people. But being able to, if you know that person, being able to identify a virtue that they do possess can help you potentially better deal with them when the friction starts to come out. So it's like, you know what, this person is annoying the hell out of me right now. However, something that I admire about them is this, that can help depress some of the frustration or the annoyance that you might be having because you're focusing more on how what they do well versus the thing that's bugging you. But also, if you don't know the person, then that's where you can tap into your gurus and say, what would Sierra do? What would Rob do in this situation? What would Tony Robbins do? Again, they don't have to be people that you know. They can just be people that you are familiar with. But
Right.
being able to use that can help you just better handle a life that's out of your control, a world that's out of your control. But being able to tap into those resources, those referential resources when you need them, there's going to be tremendously valuable to help you elevate yourself, Sierra, to your point, and to be more virtuous day in and day out when things can be a little tough. Things or people can be a little tough. Yeah. All right, so good reminder. Maybe do this. I would say let's try to keep doing this. Maybe once a week or, whatever is best for you. Sit down and just think about one person. And then over time, start to build your guru guide, if you will, your reference guide.
But here's what you notice will happen to you. If you spend time doing this, it's not sexy, it's not watching your favorite show, it's not talking to a friend, whatever. But this is the time that you spend with yourself that will reward itself over and over and over again when you do spend time with other people. Because you've taken care of yourself and you realize what you want and the virtues you want and who has those virtues, and you have things that you go towards, you will be better serving other people as well. Like, that's the goal. That's exactly what the Stoics were getting at, is here's the ideal. Let's all move towards that. And if we can do that collectively, we can get more people to do that. Think about how different it is. And in this time of how we communicate, if I can tie it back to that for just a second, where the rewards are emotional connections to opinions, and they get rewarded all the time, and they get more negative all the time and more critical all the time. So we're trying to balance out, if you want to use, the Force. This is the social media, Darth Vader. We need to be Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda to balance out the negative things that are rewarded. If we can reward the positive, enough of us can do that, the virtues.
Be an example of it.
Yes, exactly. The better life will be for more people.
Mm-hmm. Understanding that everybody's going to have their slip-ups and their hiccups.
No question. They're not about perfection.
We're not about being perfect.
No.
There's no such thing. Not about being perfect, but every day striving to be just a little bit more virtuous, a little bit more patient than the day before. And it's, just to tie it up, this talks specifically, Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, which is what we always think when you think about Stoicism, the cold, unfeeling statue of a person. But the truth is it's not about suppressing emotions. It's really just learning how to, as they say right here, escape the destructive ones, the ones that aren't serving you, the ones that aren't helping prop you up to, live in this world with fellow humans and live in I can't say harmonious, because I think that's an ideal, that's a utopian that we probably can't achieve, but being able to do it with just a little bit more support, internal support, than maybe what you've had before. All right.
Join us on this journey. Who are you looking at for virtue lessons? Let us know.
Yeah.
Join our group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please do. Yes. Join us if you are able. We would love to have you join us, be it just here through comments that you place in the video, or by joining us as part of our virtual book club. We'll meet every week. We'll discuss these ideas, and we'll be able to share each other's insights together. There is a link right here in this video on YouTube. So we'd love to have you join us as we continue our 52-week journey. We are moving along here.
Let's get virtuous, virtuous. I want to get virtuous.
And so
That's why I don't sing along.
Yeah.
You need to like pump iron at the same time.
it's that emotional muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That physical brain.
Yeah, exactly. The physical brain. Good tie back. Perfect. So guys, we have done a fantastic job. We are actually all through part 1 of our book, which was all about the discipline of desire. And so starting next week, we're going to shift to a whole new set of exercises where they challenge us.
Take action.
Talking about the discipline of action. So until then, have a wonderful week. Continue to identify those that help you become a better person. Identify some of those admired traits and start to think of a little way that you can tap into those when, things get a little bit tricky, when navigating this life full of people. On that note, take care. Thanks for joining us on the porch. See you next time.